Chapter 5. Look, Leroy! It's the Capitol! We made it! We made it! Look over there just a little further, Myrtle. I think that's the Washington Monument. Myrtle was finishing the last verse of God Bless America when the Greyhound bus turned into the station. By this time, the sun was yawning in a sleepy western sky. Let's fly up to the top of the Greyhound terminal and take in our first Washington, D.C. sunset, Leroy suggested. Awesome! We'll have a panoramic, aerial, postcard view of it, Myrtle said with delight. After Myrtle could take her eyes off the patriotic sunset, she was surprised to see a rather large flock of seagulls begging for food right outside of the terminal. Leroy saw someone throw food. He grabbed Myrtle's wing and said, "Time for din-din." Myrtle looked reserved. "Just mingle," Leroy said. "Act like you've lived here forever." They flew into the middle of the flock. "Hey, get out of here," one seagull shrieked. "First come, first served," Leroy said, as he snatched a chicken bone from under the other gull's beak. The turf war began, and another seagull snatched that very same chicken bone for himself. There was an ear-piercing battle. It became a tug-of-war with another seagull. It landed Leroy on his slightly bent, folded, and mutilated tail feathers. Myrtle was horrified, but she was able to give the other bird a karate chop to the neck, and out popped the chicken bone. "Nice save, Leroy," Myrtle said as he caught it with his beak. "Now, let's get out of here," she insisted. They flew up the street in a flash and landed on the head of a statue of Christopher Columbus. While they were eating and licking their wounds, Myrtle thought she heard a familiar voice. "Listen, Leroy. Doesn't that sound just like Marie?" "You're in D.C. You don't know anybody here," Leroy reminded her. She just glared at him and listened all the harder. "Anyway, Marie who?" Leroy acted interested. "You know, the neighbor I used to watch TV with at Pier 1 on that huge screen. It's across from Caesars. She and her husband used to live in the rafters of the Beachcomber nightclub, not far from Bally's." "Okay, now I remember. Her husband's name is Hank, right? He's okay. He likes that Greek restaurant on the boardwalk. You know, where the customers sign dollar bills, and the owner uses them as wallpaper." "Marie told me the food there was pretty good," Myrtle answered. "Well, Hank and I have gone hunting together at that spot a few times. I was never disappointed." Now she had Leroy's attention. They both listened carefully. They didn't have to listen very long. Hank recognized Leroy right away. He flew over to them. "Hey, I know you. What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," Leroy said. "Marie and I were lonely after the kids left. Eric flew off to college in upstate New York. Helena decided to move to Ocean City. The last one to leave the nest was Jerry, and he joined the Coast Guards. We are spending the children's inheritance traveling this year, just like the bumper sticker suggests," Marie added with a smile. "Why are you here, Myrtle?" "I decided that I would like to dance at one of Obama's inaugural balls." "How did you ever talk Leroy into it?" The ladies talked together. They caught up on all the gossip since Labor Day. That's when Hank and Marie left for their trip. Leroy and Hank talked about shelter and food and the best spots to find both. Chapter 6. "Hank said he knows a warm place we can bunk for a while, if we're interested, Myrtle." "Where is it?" "It's in front of the main train station, called Union Station. It's under some covered arches. It's near a restaurant. The heat ductwork makes it warm when the wind is blowing. That sounds good, Leroy. Let's give it a try tonight. I'm too tired to be afraid of anything. Thank you, Leroy. I'm so happy tonight. Myrtle told Hank and Marie all the places that she wanted to see the most. I just have to see the Jefferson Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, the White House, the zoo. They all fell asleep before Myrtle could finish the long list. Leroy woke up with a big appetite. Okay, Hank, let's try out the morning feast area you told me about. We have to wait another half hour, Leroy. We have to wait until the pigeon lady leaves. The pigeon lady? Myrtle inquired. She's a lady that feeds the pigeons every day at sunrise, but it's a pigeons only exclusive. She doesn't like seagulls. She will chase us if we show up, Marie complained and explained. She thinks we're too rowdy, Hank added. But after she leaves, it's like you died and went to heaven. Every day the bakery throws out its day-old stuff next to the water fountain. We have an hour to eat. Then they clean up the crumbs and bag them for the DC trash. DC is trying to reduce its rat problem, Hank told them. Just make sure you're on time for breakfast, and you'll always start the day out fine, Marie advised. Thanks, you guys. I'm so glad you are such good friends, Myrtle smiled. They watched the pigeon lady cater to the pigeons, and then they took their turn at breakfast. There were bagels and rolls, and Leroy's favorite, plenty of donuts. Hank whispered something into Leroy's ear. Leroy liked what he heard. We have a surprise for you, Myrtle. See those red double-decker tour buses? On cold days, nobody rides on top. We can take a tour to all the top sites. You can rest your wing feathers from the long trip. We can hop on and hop off at any place they stop. I saw their advertisement, Marie added. Myrtle jumped up and down with glee. She felt so blessed. They had a comfortable place to stay, a place to eat, well, good transportation, and most of all, good friends. It doesn't get better than this, she said, as they all took their seats on top of the bus. This was their routine day after day. Myrtle got to see the things on her list and so much more. As the week of the inaugural ball approached, they concentrated on things like which ones to go to, what they would wear, and how many famous people they would get a chance to watch. Chapter 7. Marie knew exactly where to go to find something pretty to wear to the ball. On Sunday, we will take you to Andrews Air Force Base. Across the street from the base is a thrift store. On Sundays, they let anybody take what they want for free. People leave all kinds of wonderful things, from computers to fancy gowns, Marie said with excitement. She begs me to go every Sunday afternoon. While she picks through things and plays dress up, I go to Dunkin' Donuts. It's right around the corner, Hank said. That sounds like a perfect game plan to me, Leroy agreed. Love those donuts. Yes, I do. The next day, after their regular morning feast, they flew the 10 miles to the Air Force Base thrift store. The guys flew to the thrift store too. Even Leroy was curious to see if he could find something snazzy to wear to a ball. I would like to find some beads or a tiara, Myrtle said. Do you think I could find a clutch purse? Anything is possible. You never know just what the people are going to drop off, Hank explained as they flew. I would like to find a black bow tie and maybe a little black vest to contrast with my white feathers, Leroy admitted. I like that idea, Leroy, Myrtle smiled. We turn right at this corner, and we're there, Hank directed. Oh, boy! Look at all the things they dropped off today. I was hoping we would be here on a day when the parking lot was scattered with boxes, and on a day that it would take hours for us to look through everything. This is more than I could have hoped for." Marie beamed. You could say that they had a ball before the ball. Even the guys had fun trying on funny hats. Hank found a fancy little cane and danced on top of an old dresser with a mirror. Leroy bowed like a gentleman and said, "May I have this dance, pretty lady?" The music coming from the gas station next door played a mix of oldies and contemporary songs. They twisted, they waltzed, they line danced. Hank taught Leroy how to jive dance too. Finally, the guys were hungry and exhausted. "Let's go over to Dunkin' Donuts for a while, Leroy," Hank suggested. He was ready. "We'll meet you back here in an hour," Hank told the ladies. "I'm glad Leroy's gone. I don't want him to know exactly what I'm going to wear that night." "I saw him hide a couple things in a pouch, and then Hank added some too," Myrtle said. By the time the guys got back, the ladies were pleased to announce that they had found exactly what they needed to go to a ball. "Maybe to a parade and some day wear too," Myrtle added with a grin. They flew back to their Union Station roost. None of them had any trouble sleeping that night. Chapter 8. It's party time. "Okay, everybody, listen up," Marie called after breakfast. "We all want to feel wonderful and elegant for the celebrations. I say we all take a bath." "I know a good place to spruce ourselves up in style," Hank added. "I call it the Car Spa Bird Bath," Marie said. "What do you mean?" Leroy asked. "It's really a do-it-yourself car wash on Bladensburg Road. After the people pull their cars out of the covered building, there are still plenty of soap bubbles and foam to roll around in," Hank said. Myrtle liked the idea. "How far do we have to fly?" she asked. "It's only about 5 miles. On the way back we can all have our own mirrors to get ready. The Metro bus parking lot is on the same street." The Seagulls had already decided which activities they would attend. They each got to pick one. Myrtle chose the We Are One celebration at the Lincoln Memorial. Her activity came first. "I think we should wear our special day wear clothes for this occasion and save the more formal outfits for the ball at Union Station that Hank chose," Marie suggested. "So let's get ready. Pack your little pouches. It's time to rise and shine," Hank said. "I want to dance the night away," Myrtle cheered. "We're $1 trillion or more in debt. The news looks bleak, but all Myrtle wants to do is dance, dance, dance," Leroy commented. "That's right. Now let's go." So off they flew to the Car Spa Bird Bath. The ladies took a bubble bath. The guys even got a little shine without overdoing it. They flew into the overspray of a customer's wax cycle. They were glowing and looked very handsome. I'm happy to tell you, Myrtle got to dance all day at the Lincoln Memorial. You can read the postcard she sent with a seagull to Atlantic City. She met him on Lincoln's Head during the festivities. This is where they rested between dances. He promised to take the postcard home with him on Wednesday after the parties and balls. "Dear Angie, here is the postcard I promised. Leroy and I made it. Hank and Marie showed us a good time. We danced, we saw so many stars, I can hardly move my tail feathers today. Leroy found a toy trumpet at the thrift store and played the Obama inaugural march before the parade on Pennsylvania Avenue. He surprised me with the song he had written. We flew over to the Kennedy Center and watched the stars show up for Oprah's taping on Monday. And Tuesday, a pigeon showed us how to get into the Union Station Ball without any hassle. We danced on Centurion statues' heads and took everything in. I think President Obama saw us. He pointed, smiled, and waved. I'm having the time of my life. I think Leroy is glad he came too. Hank and Marie send their love. We will see you in the spring. Love, Myrtle and Leroy. The end.